Jessica Cameron, welcome to FrightFest.
Thank you so much.
We know you as actress Jessica Cameron, but you're here as director Jessica Cameron. But first up, you're here with a film called Truth or Dare. So I've got to ask up front, truth or dare?
Dare.
Can you give us a classic Hollywood scream queen scream, please?
Okay, brace yourself. How was that?
Classic.
Right.
Brilliant. So this is your first time behind the camera. So
It is.
How was the directing experience for you?
You know, it was completely different than anything I'd ever thought it would be. I think it's something that's so hard to sort of understand the amount of work you're getting yourself into, because it really is a beast of a job. It is. You kind of have to do everything and oversee what everyone else is doing and keep an eye on everything. So as an actor, your job is very simple. You push your objective and you understand what your character is going through. As a director, you have to understand what all the actors are doing, what all of their characters are trying to achieve. You have to understand how they're being lit, how the sound guy is using his equipment, if the boom is too close or too far, you know, how the special effects are working. So there's just so much more going on. But it was really great to sort of be in a position where I could assemble the most talented people that I've known, which is really what I did. I took all the years of acting and picked the best and most talented people I'd worked with, and then said, hey, let's put them all on the same set, and how about it's mine?
It's sort of a bit about the film's plot. It is basically about a group of people who do truth or dares and put them on YouTube.
Yes, which I think is so relevant today, because now we live in a day and age where it's so easy and almost disturbingly simple to get overnight fame. You know, there's people that have a multi-million view YouTube channel and are making ridiculous money off of doing the stupidest things online. So I wanted to make something that was very appropriate to the era that we live in.
And it's also, it's a commentary on our celebrity-obsessed culture. It's a commentary on people's obsession with fame just for the sake of fame. You know, once upon a time, you became famous for your talent, for what you did. These days, people just want to be famous simply for being famous.
Oh, absolutely. And now we're seeing more and more reality stars that have this high level of fame, and they're able to sustain it for years and sometimes decades. You know, the entire Kardashian family is famous for what? I don't even know. I just know that I can't walk a block without seeing some product that their face is on. You know, I can't listen to the radio or the television without hearing about them on some carpet somewhere. You know, and this is where we currently live. So I think it's fascinating. I think it goes to the actual mindset of the youth today that we're creating and bringing up. So.
Yeah, and you co-wrote the script with Jonathan Scott Higgins.
I did.
So what was the collaborative process like?
He did most of the work. I take most of the credit now. No, it's funny because everybody wants to put it more on me, and I have to say it was much more him writing it, and I just sort of gave ideas. So I have all these great visuals in my mind, and as a huge horror fan for as long as I can remember, I know what I've seen, I know what I've seen too much, and I know what I haven't seen. So I really wanted to try to make sure that Truth or Dare was something that was not typical, and something that most horror fans like myself would be able to walk away from and go, wow, that was new. I've never seen that on camera ever, even if they might not agree with it or think that arguably you shouldn't see it on camera. I wanted to do it. So that was kind of how I input, and then he made everything work. So I sort of threw in a couple of the puzzle pieces, and then he did all the hard labor of assembling said puzzle.
Yeah, speaking of some of those extreme moments, and there are some extreme moments, how comfortable were the cast in actually performing?
Depends on the cast. Some of the cast were more comfortable than others. And it's one of the things because there was so much when you see the movie, as you've seen, and hopefully as the rest of the wonderful people here at FrightFest will see shortly. There's so much going on, and it's very, very filled with many, many moments. So we kind of took it on a day-by-day basis. Like, obviously, the cast had read the script and they agreed to do it. But it's something that when you agree to do it and you see it in print, it's very different than when you actually see the special effects and you actually start to do it. And then once we started rolling the camera, we just sort of kept going and trying to go at their pace. So some scenes took longer than others just because the actors were uncomfortable. So we had to sort of work with them to get them to that place. And other scenes, which were really complicated, went quicker than we could have imagined just because the actors were so in the zone. You know, we tried to make sure that everything that happens in the script is not for shock or gore factor, but it's appropriate to the story. So I think that really helped to ground the actual actors in the moment, which made it easier to take overall. We did have one of our actors, Shelby Stalin, who plays Ray. He actually vomited in the scene. So we actually kept that take in there. It is. You can. He goes. It's the only time he's in the middle of some horrible dare, and he lifts his head and moves his head over to the side, where he goes a little bit out of camera, out of frame, and that's when he went to go vomit, and then he goes back to doing his job. But it was such a. I believe he vomited in character, so based on what he was being forced to do. So I kept it in there because it was by far the best take. And it was exceptional. Other people are like, you can't leave it in there. That's your actor getting sick. I was like, no, that's gold. So.
And when you were in the casting process, what were you looking for from your actors?
You know what? The casting process was different for this one because I co-wrote it. I co-wrote it with very specific people in mind for most of the roles because I knew this was my first film that I was co-writing and I was going to be producing officially. I wasn't originally slated to direct it. But when I was just going to produce it, I wanted to try to keep it as simple as possible. So I deliberately made it so that there's only 9 speaking roles. We didn't want to have massive amounts of roles to actual fill. And then when we were writing it, we actually wrote many of the main characters, 5 of the 9. We wrote them with the actors who ended up playing the roles in mind. And we kept them in the loop early on. Like I told Ryan Kaiser, who plays my wonderful lead Derek, pretty much when we were at like our 4th or 5th draft, like, hey, I've got this script and you're fantastic, you're perfect for it. And then when I actually gave it to him, he was all for it. So we did that a lot. The few other roles that we had, for Shelby Stalin actually didn't have the role originally. He plays Devaney's brother, Devaney Penn. So it was very important that the actor look like Devaney. So that was a little bit tricky because it does narrow the playing field. Devaney has a very beautiful, sort of Italian, sexy, exotic look. And it was very important that the guy playing her brother believably looked like her. So the first thing that we did for that is we kind of scrolled through who do we know who looks like Devaney, who could believably, physically play the part. And then we had everyone send in audition tapes for it. And I actually reached out to Shelby, who had been in an acting class with me years ago, and said, I think you'd be really great, do you mind? And he was all for it. And by fluke, his audition was by far the best out of all of them. So he got it hands down.
Great. Now, it's your first film as a director.
Yes.
And we don't have that many female horror directors in the world. I mean, just off the top of my head, there's the Soska sisters, of course, your fellow Canadians. Jennifer Lynch, Helene Cattell, Jennifer Kent, who's here with the Babadook.
Yes, which I loved.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Axel Carolyn, who's known, who recently had the Soulmate came out. But what is it with the lack of female directors in horror?
I think it's multiple things. I think, first of all, it's easier and more enjoyable to be in front of the camera than it is behind it. It is a lot more work behind it, and I just think that it's easy for women, especially in this industry, to get distracted with being in front of it. And then I think it's hard to be a woman and be behind the camera. Hollywood especially is very much an old boys club, whether people want to admit it or not. That's what it is. It's hard to walk into a room and command the same level of respect and the same budgets and the same control as our male counterparts. I think that that's changing. I think every time the Saskas make a movie and, are brilliant, it helps us and gets us a step closer to where we are equal, but we're definitely not there yet. Even right now there's like this huge debate whether or not we can even direct films that are going to be blockbusters or financially profitable by Hollywood standards. And at the end of the day, until we actually go off and show you, it's all maybe they can, maybe they can't. But the more women that we have that are stepping up to the plate and showing everyone that we are here, we're not going anywhere, we are as good as every man out there, the better it will be for everyone.
Well, keep making good films.
Exactly. Don't worry, we intend to.
Yeah. Now, the indie horror scene has been going from strength to strength in the past decade. Name 3 of the most recent indie horror films you've seen and loved?
And I loved, Excision.
Yep.
Ricky Bates, exceptional. How much do I love that film? There's not enough time to discuss how much I love it. I think the performances are brilliant and the story is so original. And the directing by Mr. Bates is phenomenal. I have never seen any of the actors involved give as good of a performance as they did in this film. And the fact that he did it for, independent on a low budget is phenomenal. I will be forever excited to see anything Ricky Bates does. I'm going to have to go with American Mary, of course, the Soska sisters. It's an amazing film. It's got so much subtext. It is brilliant. The performances are top notch. I think Tristan Risk, they brought Tristan Risk to the world with that movie, and I think that she is a breath of fresh air. And I can't wait to see what all of them do next. And I love Catherine Isabel as well. I've watched her career as a young girl in Ginger Snaps. So I thought they finally made her into a woman with this film. And I thought it was a really horrible tale, but it had so much intrigue to it. And to this day, it's something that still evokes great conversation, which I think is what all films should do, whether you like them or not. And let's see, a third independent film. Let's talk about The Guest. The Guest. Adam Wingard, Simon Barrett. Brilliant. I can't say enough great things about that movie or those filmmakers. And, you know, they're men and they write and direct women phenomenally well. If you look at all of their past films, you see these really original, unique female characters that are awesomely portrayed by the actresses under great direction. And it's really exciting to see these guys consistently write female characters outside of the box. As an actor, it's so exciting to me because I'm like, oh, there's nothing typical about any of the women in any of their films. You know, I've been a huge fan of theirs, and I was a huge proponent of You're Next last year. I thought that was such a wonderful film, and unfortunately didn't get the acclaim that it should have. And I can't wait to see what The Guest does for them now, because it's equally brilliant and really strong, and again has a really unique female character in it, who's sort of an uncommon match for the villain in the film, which I thought was so great.
And finally, what are we going to see from you next? Are you going to be back behind the camera?
You know what? I didn't know if I would be, but I am. After I did Truth or Dare, although I had an amazing time, it's so much more work and time consuming. And you give a different part of your heart and soul when you direct a movie as opposed to when you just act in it. Because when you act in it, you go up to set and you read the words that somebody else wrote, and you sit where somebody else tells you to sit, and you sort of live the life of the character, and then you leave. And then you come back for ADR or you come back for press, and everyone's telling you how wonderful you are. It's very different when you're a director, and you have to live with this film, and it's your everything, every day and every night, throughout all of pre-production, and then filming, and then post-production. So it's a part of your daily life for years, which was a very different experience. And at first I didn't know if I could do it again, because I was like, I don't know how much of myself I have left to give. But it's been such an amazing experience. And Jonathan Higgins and I had this story, and he started writing this amazing script called Mania. And it's a really fucked up lesbian love story that is just so much fun that we're going to film cross country. And when I read it, I thought two things. Oh my God, as a horror fan, I have to see this movie. And then the sad part, as an actor, I'm not right for either of the two female leads, which is hard to say. And don't get me wrong, everyone, you know, people are like, you could do anything. I was like, you can, but there's also some things that you're not right for. There just are. As an actor, you're not right for certain things. It's just the reality of it. And I'm not right for either of these two characters, but I happen to know the women who are, and I really wanted to be involved, so I chose to direct and produce Mania, so that'll be the next one that we do. We're going to do it this fall, and we're going to do it traveling cross country, hopefully interacting with the fans as much as possible. It's going to be this wonderful, messed up sort of love story. And then in the meantime, I'm still taking lots of acting roles. I did Save Yourself up in Canada, which I'm phenomenally excited about, with Tristan Risk from American Mary, who's as brilliant in person as you could ever fathom. And then before that, we did Utero, which is a wonderful film about a young woman who believes she is in fact pregnant with a monster, specifically a spider monster. So it's been a really exciting year, and a very busy one, which is always a good thing.
And will we see a sequel to Truth or Dare?
You absolutely will. And it's going to be even more fucked up than you could ever believe. And that's just where it naturally has gone.
I look forward to seeing it.
I can't wait for you to see it too.
Thanks, Jessica.
My pleasure.